Once upon a time, high up on a rolling green hill that touched the very edges of the clouds, there lived a young boy. Everyone called him the shepherd boy. His job was very important, but also very quiet. Every single morning, he led his flock of fluffy white sheep from the village up to the high pastures to eat the sweet dew-covered grass. The sun would shine, the wind would whistle through the trees, and the sheep would go, munch, munch, munch. The shepherd boy loved his sheep. They were like big, walking marshmallows. He spent his days talking to them, telling them stories about dragons and distant kingdoms. One sheep, the smallest of the bunch, liked to nuzzle his hand. "You are a good listener," the boy whispered, patting the sheep's thick wool. But as the hours passed, the silence of the hills began to feel very, very long. He wished something exciting would happen. "I am so bored," the shepherd boy groaned, stretching his arms wide. "The grass grows, the sun moves, and the sheep just eat. I wish there was someone to talk to." He looked down at the tiny village far below. He could see the smoke rising from the chimneys and the people busy with their work. Then, a naughty idea popped into his head. He thought it would be a funny trick to play on the villagers. The shepherd boy took a deep breath, cupped his hands around his mouth, and shouted as loud as he could, "Wolf! Wolf! Help! There is a wolf chasing the sheep!" Down in the village, the people dropped their tools. "Oh no!" cried a farmer. He grabbed his pitchfork and ran as fast as his legs could carry him up the steep hill to save the boy and the flock. When the farmer reached the top, he saw no wolf. He only saw the sheep eating grass and the shepherd boy rolling on the ground, laughing. "Ha ha ha! I fooled you," the boy cried. The farmer wiped his forehead and sighed. "That wasn't a very kind trick, boy," he said. "We left our work because we were worried about you." The farmer turned around and walked back down the hill. A few days later, the hills felt quiet once again. The shepherd boy watched the butterflies dance, but he missed the excitement of the crowd. "Let's see if they come again," he whispered to himself. He stood up on a large boulder and yelled even louder than before. "Wolf! Wolf! Please help! A big, scary wolf is here." He tried to make his voice sound very frightened. This time, the village baker heard the cry. He dropped his tray of fresh bread and raced up the hill, his white apron flapping in the wind. When he arrived, out of breath and worried, he found the boy giggling behind a tree. "Where is the wolf?" the baker asked. The shepherd boy jumped out and shouted, "Fooled you again!" The baker frowned deeply. "A lie is not a joke," he said quietly before heading back home. Then, one afternoon, the shadows on the hill grew long and cold. The wind began to howl, but it wasn't the boy's voice this time. Suddenly, from the dark edge of the forest, a pair of glowing yellow eyes appeared. A real wolf, large and gray, stepped out from the bushes. It growled, a low and scary sound that made the sheep tremble. The shepherd boy's heart began to hammer against his ribs. This was not a trick. "Wolf! Wolf!" the boy screamed. He climbed the highest rock and waved his hat wildly. "There is a real wolf. Please, somebody help me. I'm not joking this time. Help!" He watched the village, waiting for the farmer, the baker, or anyone to come running. But down in the valley, the villagers heard his cries and just shook their heads. "He's trying to trick us again," they said to one another, and they stayed in their homes. The shepherd boy watched helplessly as the wolf chased his sheep into the forest. He tried to stop it, but he was only a small boy, and the wolf was very fast. The flock scattered in every direction, running away in fear. By the time the sun began to set, the hillside was empty. His friends, the fluffy white sheep, were all gone. The boy sat down in the grass and began to cry. As the stars began to twinkle in the purple sky, an old villager climbed the hill to see why the boy hadn't come home. He found the shepherd boy sitting alone in the dark, his face wet with tears. "The wolf came," the boy sobbed. I yelled and yelled, but nobody came to help me. My sheep are all gone." The boy felt a heavy weight in his chest, knowing it was his own fault. The old man sat down beside him and placed a kind hand on his shoulder. "Nobody believes a liar," the old man said gently, "even when he is telling the truth. We must use our words carefully, for trust is like a beautiful glass bowl. Once it breaks, it is very hard to put back together." The boy nodded, learning a lesson he would never forget. From that day on, he always told the truth, and slowly, the village began to trust him again.